Good morning, everyone. My name is Gary Grote. I'm the Executive Director for the Greater Aurora Chamber of Commerce, and we're here for our sixth Real World Careers Meet the Professionals presentation. And the purpose of this is to connect students and teachers directly with individuals in various careers and industries to provide a background and pathway to a possible career in that particular field. And before we go on too, I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this program possible. Aurora Park, Absolute Care of Aurora Park, our sustaining platinum sponsor for the Chamber, and also for Moog, who is our program title sponsor. And with us today, it should continue to be an interesting series of programs that we've done. We have Karen Kellogg, who's a CPA for Philipps Brooks here in the village, and also Peter Ertl, who's the Vice President of the Bank of Holland, who has 3 locations right now in Holland, East Aurora, and Elma. So thank you both for being with us here today. We really appreciate it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about accounting, careers in the accounting field, and how a little background on what accounting is like, and if you're interested, the pathway to get into that career, and also the same thing with banking, to talk with Pete about his experience in banking and how he got to where he is and all the other opportunities there are in this field. But Karen, why don't we start with you? What I'll do is I'll give each of you an opportunity to talk about yourselves a little bit, your background, how you got to where you are, and then we'll get into the specifics of your particular industry. Karen, go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Karen Kellogg, a CPA with the firm of Philipps Brooks here in town. We are a full CPA firm, which means certified public accounting firm. I actually got in my career kind of through a whole back doorway. I went 9 years of night school in my earlier life, and I actually had gotten an accounting degree, and I went to work for Republic Steel in the old days, and I was a cost accountant for a little bit, and then I was an auditor, an internal auditor with them for a few years. At that particular point, I stopped and had my child, my son, and 2 years later, I was looking to get back in the field, and by then I said, well, I would like to actually do what I've been studying to do, which is to be a public accountant. So I actually got in with a small firm in my community at the time. I was back in Cleveland, Ohio, and I worked there for about 8 years. After that point in time, during that point in time, I had become the full CPA by then and got all my certifications and license. So after that particular point in time, I actually went on my own and had my own business there. And for about 14 years, I had my own business. And I had then merged with another small firm there, so we're bigger. And then my husband got a job here at Moog back in town. So I moved actually to East Aurora, where now I work for Philipps Brooks for a small CPA firm here in town. That's how I got here.
So you've got that a varied career, probably of all the aspects of a lot of the questions I was going to ask in terms of, how you started out. And you, like you said, you started out in a different way, not your traditional way. And you worked for others. You had different roles in the accounting field for different companies. You started your own business, and then you work for a company. But let's just go back a little bit. And with accounting, you can be an accountant, but you can also be a certified public accountant, right?
Correct.
Can you tell what the difference is?
Yes, you don't need to be a certified public accountant or CPA to do a lot of the things that I just told you I did in my career. I did need an accounting degree from a university for your accounting degree to do those things, but I didn't need the certification. The certification is something that allows you to be the public accountant as well. And it also gives you some other background for things you can do in business. So you can use it in many fields, but it is an absolute requirement if you want to be a public accountant. And what that means is that you actually This leads more to, we prepare the financial statements for companies and corporations. And those financial statements have different levels of attest functions to them, which means that we look at the whole books of the companies and we certify that they are indeed correct. So there's a level of the first level of compilation where you're just looking at lightly compiling the financial statements according to the American Institute of CPAs, which runs the whole thing, and you're complying so that everybody's the same. So that means you compare oranges and oranges and apples and apples. And therefore, when somebody is looking at the company to give them a loan, like Pete might be doing, there's some continuity and degree of integrity that's behind those numbers. There's other levels, other higher levels, which is a review, and the largest one is an audit. And that's where we actually dig into things and have to go through a lot of the different procedures of the company to make sure that they are actually going to allow these statements to be prepared correctly and the numbers will flow through. And those are the things that you have to be a certified public accountant for. So those are the actual requirement to sign those statements. So.
I guess a couple of things. That one, really all companies should have some kind of a relationship with an accountant and have,
yes,
you know, because I mean, even a small one, but to the degree that you really need to make sure you're doing things the right way, you know, to make sure if it's an IRS issue or something like that with taxes and things, but also even individuals. I mean, you do stuff for individuals or their accountants.
Correct. So like,
go ahead. I'm
yes,
sorry.
Yeah. So our firm actually does. There's a lot of different things we do. You know, we do taxes for individuals. We do taxes for small companies. We do them for estates and trusts and non-for-profit organizations in our town. So there's a lot of different customers that we deal with, and we get involved within those different realms of businesses and nonprofits to help them to, a lot of times to do planning, a lot of times to plan their business. Maybe they're expanding, maybe they're selling, and we get involved in all aspects of those. And that's the juice that I like. I like helping the people and making a difference in where they're at. Sometimes it's just doing a individual tax return for a person, so an older person, younger person starting out, people with families, people that have a lot of situations with their taxes. And those are types of things that we help with and make a difference. I always say we're not selling, preparing your taxes, although we are doing that. But what we're selling you is peace of mind with the IRS, which is something that most people really want to know.
With that though, and maybe to step back a little bit, you know, essentially as an accountant, going back to what a basic accounting is, it's keeping track of the numbers in terms of revenues and expenses, or having knowledge of what the forms are to fill in the correct amounts when somebody, whether it's an individual or a company, is having their taxes done. So there's kind of a basic understanding of what an accountant is and does, right?
Yes. It's basically, there's involved with math, of course. There's involved with a lot of tax laws, which change constantly. So it's always updating, and it's always, so you have to know the old laws, the new laws, how it affects people, what it costs them to do that, and their taxes, how they can save money, how they can get credits. And that's our job, to know how to do it for the maximum that they pay what's honest and due, but at the same point in time, they're not overpaying or they're not underpaying and getting in trouble. So that's basically what we do. And in the tax world, it's not a black and white issue. You know, there's a lot of interpretations. There's a lot of there's nothing that necessarily, like when you do a financial statement, everything has to equal. But in accounting, everything actually equals when you're doing books for folks and you're doing to make sure those profit and loss statements are all balancing. But when it comes to tax law, there is a lot more that's kind of frustrating to some accountants, because you have to think beyond the box, because some of those things don't make sense, or common sense, so to speak. Yeah. But they're tax law. They're things that have been passed in Congress that we have to now make sure that everybody's following.
Yeah. one of the things that when somebody goes into accounting, or maybe you're looking to hire somebody, an accountant or something in a similar kind of position, the person that you're looking for is going to have to really pay special attention to detail.
Yes, we're very detailed oriented. The devil is in the detail in what we do. Things have to be really correct. Even when you're entering in a tax program, it has to be entered correctly. The numbers have to be right. The boxes have to be checked correctly to make the right answers of what we know the tax law is actually you're interpreting to make the return work. Right. So there's a lot involved, and it's, but you're never bored in my business because things are always changing and there's a lot going on. That's one thing I always like about what I do, is that diversity throughout your job entirely. You're also helping people if they're getting notices or if they're getting audits, and you're representing them with the IRS for some reasons, which I have done many times. And that, of course, is very concerning to the individual. So, we're going through a lot of emotional things. So also in my business, you have to be a person, at least in public accounting for sure, that listens to people and that communicates very well, because we are in the middle of this and we are making all the parts work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we'll go to Pete in a second, and I think there's really a relationship between, in terms of, I guess, the dollars and cents and finance between accounting and banking, and you talked about one of the things. I mean, if somebody's going to get a loan or somebody's going to sell their business, and Pete may be involved in something like that. There is a relationship here. So good morning, Pete. Thanks for being with us today. How you doing?
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, why don't you give us a little background on yourself first to start, and then we'll get into the banking business.
Sure. Good morning. Peter Ertl from the Bank of Holland, Vice President, Loan Officer, Security Officer. So you can see many different, titles and hats there at the small Bank of Holland there. Seeing everything from, our one bank out in Holland when we were all under one roof. And then we started the East Aurora branch and then the Elma, and we have our operations center. So I've seen the bank, how it's grown from the beginning to what the size of it is now. I started out at Iroquois High School until I started taking business classes, getting interested in what I wanted to do in management and learning different types of the aspects of the business. From then I proceeded on to Hilbert College and got my 4-year degree in business management, which was everything from marketing to accounting to management, to seeing different types and aspects of businesses. From there, I went on to a finance company and started doing loans and mortgage for them, managing staff and employees, and learning the differences between small loans to large loans. From then, I've been here at the Bank of Holland for the last 20 years. Like I said, I've started out as, from a loan officer to a branch manager to the vice president, to doing commercial loans and construction loans for employees or customers.
Well, and you really hit the whole spectrum, it seems, of different positions in the banking field. I mean, from your background in education, I've known you for a long time, and I didn't realize that you had that much expertise and knowledge in those areas. So. And you're not where Karen kind of did a non-traditional way. You kind of went the traditional way in the banking finance. Going to high school, you took the business courses. In college, you went to you said Hilbert or
Hilbert, yes.
Hilbert, yeah. And so you took that traditional way. But, can you talk a little bit about what the opportunities in the banking industry, and maybe a little bit what I asked Karen, the type of person that you need? Because I'm sure in banking, you want somebody who's detailed and who has that ability to concentrate and stay on task when you're talking about, the dollars, the actual dollars and cents of a position.
Right. There's many different positions here at the bank. We're coming from, working in the branch, you're going to deal with customers. You have to have that customer service, to the back office where, yes, you're dealing with, the exact numbers, making sure, people's customers' accounts are credited correctly, making sure that the interest or the loan, making sure payments are done correctly. So those are the detail oriented. So yeah, there's a wide spectrum of different positions here at the bank. Like I said, from customer service down to the back office where the detail of, like we said, those loan documents are correct and interest is applied correctly to accounts.
And obviously, like you said, you're working with the public, and you're working with, like Karen mentioned, with individuals who may need assistance, who may be looking for a loan particularly, or or a business who may need a loan also. How do you deal with those, or what kind of person do you have to be to do that? What are some of the tasks, I guess, involved in that?
The task with the loan side of it is actually sometimes just being a good listener too. Being able to sit down with the customer, have them explain their story, what they're doing for work, their income, their family, see what their goals are, where they want to go. Do they want to buy a house? Is it a first time home buyer? Do they want to build a home? Different types of that. And then with the businesses, sitting down and understanding the business, from a small business to a large business. And don't even know the types of businesses we have here in East Aurora that are, small businesses, but they do a lot of work all around, the US to around the world. Learning about those businesses and seeing their background, and then understanding how they operate and work and what they need.
Yeah, and so obviously your role, or a person who's working in that position of distributing loans or approving loans, has to make sure that that person or that business is capable of fulfilling the obligation once they get the loan, to be able to pay the loan back. And I think that's an important thing for students to understand, that that's something that they have to look at too, as part of a loan officer's responsibility.
Right. Not that I'm an accountant, but we need to be able to look at personal tax returns and business returns. And like you say, analyze those to make sure that the person can afford the loan or that business can repay it. At the same time, along with their character and credit, not only is also income and supporting to pay the loan.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit, you talked about the back office operations. Can you talk a little bit about that, what actually happens in the back office that, some students might be interested in? Maybe from a teller, and what other occupations there may be?
Right. Yeah, the banking, department and everything is, there's a lot of different roles, like you say, from a teller to a manager to a loan officer to our back office, which is, operations. They take care of our computer systems. So we have computer people, we have auditors, we have, a credit analysis person that does the underwriting of our commercial loans. It is more of an accounting position. Like I said, we also have, attorneys that also back us up, auditing and reviewing documents. So, yes, there's a wide variety of different jobs in the banking, than just what you see up front, taking care of the teller line.
Right. So, we talked about the Bank of Holland, as a, as a smaller bank, growing from one location in Holland to 3 across the greater East Aurora area. But what about when we talk about maybe some of the larger banks? Does that expand on? I'm not sure what your experience is with maybe some of the larger banks, but providing opportunities, other opportunities, or a greater number of opportunities in a larger bank like M&T or Key Bank or something like that.
Yeah, the larger banks, they have, more positions that are going to be more specified into what you do. So like I said, I wear many different hats here, but at those larger banks, you have more of your, back office computer people, programming, doing their programs, doing their apps today, internet banking, making sure those things are up and running, to, like I said, compliance, to also, which is a big thing now, it's called, BSA Bank Security Act, which has to go into making sure, people are not stealing from people's accounts. Today, the robberies are not the large thing, it's actual out there, internet theft, stealing from accounts and that type of things. So the back office is growing, to cover the new technology, but also how people are stealing from customers and employees.
Yeah, I guess that's really important. I guess maybe in both of your fields with cybersecurity and issues like that, when you talk about the all the risk that both of your industries might be in, because people are looking to access information or access dollars, and so the cybersecurity part of it offers additional careers in your fields. So go ahead, Karen, you were going to say something?
No, that is very true. You can also get other certifications if you want to be a certified public accountant that actually deal with things like that too. In the information technology group, there's an extra certification you can get, as well as financial forensics type of thing also. So that dovetails with the whole deal. In our industry, especially with accounting firms, the thieves like to look for social security numbers so that they can then go out and file fake tax returns and get refunds. And I also, with the pandemic, we had folks that might have gotten hacked because they were needed to get on unemployment incorrectly and to lie about it with somebody else's numbers. So those were the extra things that were happening during the pandemic. That just goes to show you, when something changes in the environment, it even opens up more for those stress points of where somebody can come in and hack.
Yeah, all those additional risks that you have to be aware of and make sure you're covered. And to both of you, the question to both of you too, and you mentioned this a little bit, Karen, in terms of education, once you become a CPA or you become a bank officer, is there a need, or are there opportunities to further your education, to advance your career even further?
Yeah, I'll take one. I did kind of miss also, in order to be a certified public accountant today, you actually have to have not only the first undergrad degree, usually in accounting, or at least having many accounting courses, but now you have to have another 150 hours of either graduate work or actually get a graduate in accounting degree. They're looking at maybe adding an MBA to that, with a lot of, you'd have to have a lot of finance part to that, I mean, and accounting as well. But that's necessary. And you also have to have another year of experience with a CPA firm, under a CPA firm. And then you can sit for this test that you have 18 months to accomplish. And then you apply to your state agency in order to get licensed in that. You can be licensed in more than one state. Once you're licensed the first time, it's easier for the others. And after that, you have to take 40 hours of actual continuing education credits every year, including an ethics course every 3 years. So there's a lot you have to do. You have to also be an ethical person. Somebody has to sign off for you to do that and have some good character. So there's a lot involved, and I just wanted to go into that.
For you mentioned the 40 hours, that's in a year's period, but you also earlier mentioned 150 hours of
additional time to get to the accounting degree. That wasn't the case when I took this years ago, but that's what it is now. So most people just go for a accounting degree, a graduate degree in accounting to do that.
Is that if you don't go for the graduate degree in accounting, is that 150 hours within a year, or is it within another
No,
period?
you can do more than 1 year, right, but it has to be all in accounting courses type of thing that are either accounting, tax, all those type of things, to ensure that you have gone further in your knowledge and education.
Okay, thanks. Pete, what about the banking industry in terms of additional education requirements?
Right. With the banking, we have different, types of, New York State banking certifications and different courses that we can take, depending on what department you're in, like I said, from, to an auditor, to the BSA, to a loan officer. There's different New York State banking associations and certificates you can get to proceed in the banking, field there. I mean, you have your traditional education, like we said, going to a 4-year college, getting your master's degree. But once you're in the banking field, taking these banking certifications to get certified in different fields, and then also your experience, of years in the employment.
Mhm. What about, I mean, as a vice president, you've had your background, your education, your work experience, other administrative management types of positions that are available, maybe more so in a larger bank, but what are some of those positions? You talk about vice president, which is your position. Tim Dickey is the president of the company. In terms of achieving those kind of positions, how does that, what kind of background and experience do you need?
Again, just, the education and the experience, like I said, getting certified in those different fields. Like you said, yes, you have the president, you have a chief financial officer, which would be more of an accounting position. That would have more of an accounting background. Like I said, we have our internal auditors,
Right.
that are reviewing documents. So.
Okay, well, we'll go towards wrapping up, but I guess a question to wrap up with for both of you. We're talking to high school students, juniors and seniors. We're talking about the future down the road. How are there ways that they might be able to get hands-on experience, whether it's through internships, part-time work, I don't know, as a teller, if that's available. I don't know if for that age group. Can you talk a little bit about that, Pete?
Right. We've had internships, from colleges. We've done, people that are looking for employment, just starting out as a teller to start learning, the aspects of the money and the banking and to see the sides of it. So, I mean, yes, getting in and trying to get some experience in the bank is something that would go a long way.
Karen?
Yes, we also have internships even here at our small firm of Philipps Brooks, especially during tax season. We had a gentleman who is getting his accounting degree in college here at UB, and so he was here helping us. We've also done with high school students. We've had them come in as interns, and actually they work for us afterwards who are interested in this accounting field, just to get their feet wet and to see the different pieces, parts of how it all works. It's a field where I am very happy to speak to the high school students today, because we are really, really short of people who are qualified to do our work. And it's very difficult to hire people. And all of us in the accounting field, whether you're in a small firm, a larger firm, it's very, very difficult to find that person anymore, because a lot of folks aren't going into this field. And we need you.
Well, let me, and just something that came to my mind, and when you mentioned that in terms of hiring and looking at the IRS, I mean, do they provide the opportunities for accountants in that area? And what would be and we know, we've talked about this before, that there's right now a shortage of staff in the IRS, and they're looking to hire people. What would be the route to employment there?
I actually interviewed for them when I was graduating. I chose not to do that. But it's basically an interview process, and I believe they have some internships too, type of thing, but they're really they're hiring right now like 10,000 people instantly, because they're so short of folks in all different areas and aspects. Sometimes it's just working your way up through the food chain too, when you get in there, and to get in these various areas. But they're also looking for, I know, a lot of technology people, and definitely forensic accounting type of thing. Those are ones that they're really starting to look for, because their computer systems are very antiquated. We're doing a lot of major changes. They have a lot of issues with fraud. So that's another specialty area that I know they're really looking for folks these days.
Yeah. Then lastly, and I asked this question a little bit earlier, but if both of you want to respond again in terms of, and I think your answers would probably be similar, but the type of person that you would be looking for with the experience and personality and character to work in your industries. Karen?
Well, it has to be someone definitely who is good for the detail, and the detail in everything, even the folks that put together a tax return at the end to present back to the client. It has to have things have to be scanned properly so that we can find it down the road. and it has to be accurate when there's a notice so we can go and get things. So every little detail, even just presenting the paperwork to give back to them, is important. That would be extremely important. I think an interest in math, I think an interest in solving puzzles and pieces, and the curiosity of doing that, and the knowledge that you will have to continue to get knowledge and to grow in this field is a definite important thing. Also, like Pete and I both said, especially if you're dealing with the customers and public accounting, it's really the ability to listen as well, to communicate well with folks, to be able to write well. Many of our answers that we have to write emails every day explaining these large, complicated issues to folks. So definitely you have to have writing skills as well. And you have to be willing to say, I'm going to keep growing the rest of my life because I'm taking 40 hours a year to continue my education. So, and there's also the, the idea to be an open, friendly person and to always want to be curious and to find the answer and to put the puzzles of the piece together.
Yeah. Pete, any comments along those lines?
Well, like we said, you got, you got the, front office, the branches where you're looking at customer service. So you're looking for that person that's outgoing, willingness to, meet customers, take that extra time with them, listen to them, to then, like you said, to going to our back office where you're going to be detail oriented. You're going to be reviewing documents and checking things to make sure things are correct. So, I mean, you have two different aspects of the bank. Do you want to meet with customers and be out, going, or are you going to want to work in their operations back office? And like I said, both jobs are needed and we're looking for both.
Yeah. Well, great. This was really very informative. I learned a lot, as I continue to learn a lot when I do these presentations. But I'd like to thank you very much, Pete Ertl, Vice President at the Bank of Holland, and Karen Kellogg, CPA for Philipps Brooks. And there's really good information, and I really appreciate you participating today.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, again, thanks for being part of this, and I really enjoyed it, and I think it's going to be valuable for our students. Our next presentation will be Wednesday, April 27th, and we hope you can join us for that. And so, again, thank you, Karen and Pete, and everybody have a great day.